my blog. For today's vlog, I will discuss about photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process by which plants, some bacteria, and some protistans use the energy from the sunlight to produce sugar, which cellular respiration converts into ATP, the fuel used by all living things. The conversion of unusable sunlight energy into usable chemical energy is associated with the actions of the green pigment chlorophyll. Most of the time, the photosynthetic process uses water and releases the oxygen that we absolutely must have to stay alive. Leaves and leaf structure. Plants are the only photosynthetic organism to have leaves. A leaf may be viewed as a solar collector crop full of photosynthetic cells. The raw materials of photosynthesis, water and carbon dioxide, enter the cells of the leaf, and the products of photosynthesis, sugar and oxygen, leave the leaf. Water enters the root and is transported up to the leaves through a specialized plant cell known as xylem. Land plants must guard against drying out and so have evolved specialized structures known as stomata to allow gas to enter and leave the leaf. Carbon dioxide cannot pass through the protective waxy layer covering the leaf, but it can enter the leaf through an opening flanked by two guard cells. Likewise, oxygen produced during photosynthesis can only pass out of the leaf through the opened stomata. Unfortunately, for the plant, while these gases are moving between the inside and outside of the leaf, a great deal of water is also lost. Nature of light. White light is separated into the different colors of light by passing it through a prism. Wavelength is defined as the distance from peak to peak. The energy of is inversely proportional to the wavelength. Longer wavelengths have less energy than the shorter ones. The order of colors is determined by the wavelength of light. Visible light is one small part of the electromagnetic spectrum. The longer the wavelength of visible light, the more the red the color. Likewise, the shorter wavelengths are towards the violet side of the spectrum. Wavelengths longer than this are referred to as infrared, while those shorter than violet are ultraviolet. Light behaves both as wave and a particle. Wave properties of light include the bending of the wave path when passing from one material into another. The particle properties are demonstrated by the photoelectric effect. Zinc exposed to ultraviolet light becomes positively charged because light energy forces electrons from the zinc. These electrons can create an electric current. Sodium, potassium, and selenium have critical wavelengths in the visible light of range. The critical wavelength is the maximum wavelength of light that creates a photoelectric effect. Chlorophyll and accessories pigment. A pigment is any substance that absorbs light. The color of the pigment comes from the wavelengths of light reflected. Chlorophyll. The green pigment common to all photosynthetic cells absorbs all wavelengths of visible light except green, which it reflects to be detected by our eyes. Black pigments absorb all of the wavelengths that strike them. White pigment or lighter colors reflect all or almost all of the energy striking them. Pigments have their own characteristic absorption spectra, the absorption pattern of a given pigment. Absorption and transmission of different wavelengths of light by a hypothetical pigment. Chlorophyll is a complex molecule. Several codifications of chlorophyll occur among plants and other photosynthetic organisms. All photosynthetic organisms have chlorophyll A. Accessory pigments absorb energy that chlorophyll A does not absorb. Accessory pigments include chlorophyll B, xanthophylls, and carotenoids. Chlorophyll A absorbs its energy from the violet blue and the reddish-orange red wavelengths and little from the intermediate wavelengths. Carotenoids and chlorophyll B absorb some of the energy in the green wavelengths. Both chlorophylls also absorb in the orange-red end of the spectrum. The origin of photosynthetic organisms in the sea may account for this. Shorter wavelengths do not penetrate much below 5 meters deep in the water sea. The ability to absorb some energy from the longer wavelengths might have been an advantage to early photosynthetic algae that were not able to be in the upper zone of the sea all the time. The actual spectrum of photosynthesis is the relative effectiveness of different wavelengths of light at generating electrons. If a pigment absorbs light energy, one of three things will occur. Energy is dissipated as heat. The energy may be emitted immediately as longer wavelengths, a phenomenon known as fluorescence. Energy may trigger a chemical reaction, as in photosynthesis. Chlorophyll only triggers a chemical reaction when it is associated with proteins embedded in a membrane, or the membrane enfoldings found in photosynthetic prokaryotes such as cyanobacteria and prochlorobacteria. Absorption spectrum of several plant pigments and action spectrum of Elodia, a common aquarium plant used in lab experiments about photosynthesis. The structure of the chloroplast and photosynthetic membranes. The thylakoid is the structural unit of photosynthesis. Both of photosynthetic prokaryotes and eukaryotes have these flattened sacs or vesicles containing photosynthetic chemicals. Only eukaryotes have a chloroplast with a surrounding membrane. Thylakoids are stacked like pancakes in stack known as collectively as grana. The areas between grana is referred to as stroma. While the mitochondrion has two membrane systems, the chloroplast has three, forming three compartments. Stages of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a two-stage process. The first process is light-dependent process. It requires the direct energy of light to make energy carrier molecules that are used in the second process. The light-independent process occurs when the products of light reaction are used to form covalent bonds of carbohydrates. The dark reaction can usually occur in the dark if the energy carries from the light process are present. Recent evidence suggests that major insight of dark reaction is indirectly stimulated by light, thus the term dark reaction is somewhat of a misnomer. The light reaction occurs in the grana and the dark reaction takes place in the stroma of the chloroplast. Light reactions. In the light-dependent process, light strikes chlorophyll A in such a way as to excite electrons to higher energy state. In a series of reactions, the energy is converted into ATP and NADPH. Water is split in the process, releasing oxygen as a byproduct of the reaction. The ATP and NADPH are used to make covalent bonds of carbohydrates in the light-independent process. In the light-independent process, carbon dioxide from the atmosphere is captured and modified by addition of hydrogen to form carbohydrates. The incorporation of carbon dioxide into organic compound is known as carbon fixation. The energy for this comes from the first phase of photosynthetic process. Living systems cannot directly utilize light energy but can through a complicated series of reactions. Photosystems are arrangements of chlorophyll and other pigments packed into thylakoids. Many prokaryotes have only one photosystem. Photosystem is second number because, while it was most likely the first to evolve, it was the second one discovered. Eukaryotes have photosystem 2 plus photosystem 1. Dark reaction. Carbon-fixing reactions are also known as dark reaction. Carbon dioxide enters single-celled and aquatic autotrophs through no specialized structure, diffusing into the cells. Land plants must guard against drying out and so have evolved a specialized structure known as stomata to allow gas to enter and leave the leaf. The carbon cycle. Plants may be viewed as a carbon sinks, removing carbon dioxide from atmosphere and ocean by fixing into organic chemicals. Plants also produce some carbon dioxide by this respiration, but this is quickly used by photosynthesis. Plants also convert energy from light into chemical energy of covalent bonds. Animals are carbon dioxide producers that derive their energy from carbohydrates and other chemicals produced by plants by the process of photosynthesis. The balance between the plant carbon dioxide removal and animal carbon dioxide generation is equalized also by the formation of carbonates in the oceans. These remove excess carbon dioxide from the air and water. Fossil fuels such as petroleum and coal, as well as more recent fuels such as peat and wood generate carbon dioxide when burned. Fossil fuels are formed ultimately by organic processes and represent also tremendous carbon zinc. Human activity has greatly increased the concentration of carbon dioxide in air. This increase has led to global warming and increase in temperature around the world. The greenhouse effect. The increase in carbon dioxide and other pollutants in the air has also led to acid rain, where water falls through polluted air and chemically combines with carbon dioxide, nitrous oxides, and sulfur oxides, producing rainfall with pH as low as 4. This result is fish kills and changes in soil pH, which can alter the natural vegetation and uses of the land. The global warming problem can lead to melting of the ice caps.